That I want to do here, a new little segment that I'm going to start doing. I don't know if I'm going to do it every week, but it hit me to do it this week just based on some things, some conversations that I have been having. So come on in and welcome to the very first Water Bottle Wednesday. We're not doing water cooler. We're doing Water Bottle Wednesday. Water Bottle Wednesday is, I thought about doing whiteboard Wednesdays. I thought about doing workplace Wednesdays. And then it hit me, let's talk about the stuff. I'm always saying, let's talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody is talking about around the water cooler. And because I'm on the go a lot, I decided to title mine Water Bottle Wednesday. And today we're talking about the three things that keep you from flying. You can't fly because you're afraid of these three things. You won't fly. You will not take flight. You will not jump off the building. You will not jump off the cliff. You will not do any of this because of these three things. You are afraid of these three things. And I'm just going to put them out there because they're stopping you from flying. All right. So water bottle Wednesday today is about the three things that are stopping you from flying. So I hope you're having a great hump day, as most of you tend to call today is your hump day. And hopefully I'll say something that will get you over the hump, that'll get you closer to taking flight. All right. So number one, the first thing that don't y'all love how I put my glasses on and off? Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing I do. The first reason you are afraid to fly is because of what people will say. And while people are coming into the room, I will say this. I've been watching this series on, I think it's on Netflix, maybe it's on Prime, and it's called A Place Called Home. And I think it's from BBC, so it's a really interesting story about this wealthy family, influential family in Australia. And probably in the second season, they introduced this villain whose name is Regina. And I mean, she is awesome. This woman is on par with some of the biggest villains you've ever seen on television. I mean, she is well written. She looks the part, but it's the work that she's doing behind the scenes that makes her absolutely nasty. And I really am fascinated by her because I've experienced some of the stuff that she's doing in my professional life recently. And so as I'm looking at Regina, I'm just like, man, she's good. And the interesting thing that I wanted to say on Water Bottle Wednesday, it's a mouthful, is you should watch this show and you should pay particular attention to Regina, because Regina, everything that she's doing is behind the scenes. She's not doing anything for everybody to see, which is what's happening with a lot of you, either in your personal relationships, your business relationships, or your at work relationships. The nasty that people do is usually behind the scenes. So you're looking at Regina in this series, and she's saying this little nasty stuff here, and she's saying little nasty stuff there, and she's dropping little bombs here, and she's undercutting your credibility here, and she's saying that most of the stuff she's saying, 99.9% of the stuff she's saying, is not even true. It's not even true. But yet she finds people in the community and people in her circle. She preys on, I don't necessarily love the word weak, but she does play on vulnerable people, and she plays on people who would kind of fall for her ploys and fall for all the crazy stuff that she does. And so I'm looking at Regina and I'm like, I've seen that. Like, I've experienced that. I've experienced where people, because of their own insecurity. So I'm not even making it about me. It's really, if this stuff is happening to you, it's not really even about you. Even though people are thinking that they're doing something to you, it's not about you. And so I'm looking at Regina on this series and I'm like, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, this individual went on a campaign and started saying all these nasty things about me. And none of these things were true. Like, literally none of them were true. And yet this individual found people who were willing to listen, not because they didn't like you or not because they didn't like me. In many cases, these people really like you. In many cases, the people that this villain is going to really do like you, respect you, whatever word you want to put out there. But they are not willing to be socially isolated. So they either sit in silence, they're complicit in the conversations, or they may even add their own nasty to it. So I'm looking at this Regina character and I'm like, wow, villains like this get to live because people are so afraid, first of all, that they're going to be, if I'm not silent in this, and if I don't go along with this individual who's saying these things about this person that I really know these things are not true, but if I don't go along with it, I won't be with the popular kids. If I don't go along with it, I'll be socially isolated. I'll be ostracized. And these are grown people who are having these conversations about being in villainous situations that they know are wrong. So I'm watching this series and I'm like, that's what happens in the workplace all the time. What I'm watching with Regina right now is what happens in business relationships, personal relationships, professional business relationships, career relationships all the time. We let these people, these villains, walk around and contaminate our relationships, contaminate our workplaces, contaminate our family spaces. We let them walk around and do this. And then if you're not complicit, if you don't go along with it, then, you can't be with the popular people, or you can't you can't say that we're friends. You can't say that we're whatever. Grow up. Stop these villains in their track. Trust me, from experience. I've had the villain I'm talking about now would say things about people in my presence. I would say, well, that's not my experience. Oh no, then that's not true at all. Just shut it down. You're old enough to just shut it down. You're not in middle school. You're not in elementary school. Nobody's going to beat you up. Shut that down. And so at first, when I saw Regina on screen in this series, it really bothered me. Real talk. It bothered me that all the people that this individual was going to, they wouldn't shut her down. They were just kind of like, or their own misery would make them commiserate with her and then just add to the pie. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about this because I'm baffled. I'm baffled. I can't be this much of an anomaly where when people are talking about people that I let them talk about people. What is wrong with people? But Regina is a great case study for what's happening in the workplace, what's happening in your personal life, what's happening in professional and personal relationships. We see this all the time. And in fact, I saw a post a couple of weeks, maybe not a couple of weeks ago, last week on my Facebook timeline about someone who had said something nasty in a text about someone else. And that individual intercepted that text. And I also posted on my timeline about that exchange that I was glad the person who had been talked about posted that on social media. And the reason I was glad, not because I wanted hurt to come to the other person, but I figure, as I said in a recent timeline post on Facebook, as my mother taught me, if you're going to say something about somebody, then you need to be willing for it to be publicized. If you're going to be that person who talks nasty about people behind their backs, then you better be ready for that stuff to be public. So when this individual posted this text, I laughed because I thought that individual thought they were sending that to somebody else. It got intercepted because it comes down to karma. When everything that I'm describing that this Regina person does in this series, and I'm getting just irritated by watching her do all this nasty stuff behind these people's back because I've experienced that firsthand. One of the only things that kept me from actually obliterating lives and really retaliating was the fact that I do believe that you reap what you sow. And I do believe that karma is a real thing. And I'll occasionally post that on my social media, like you can't outrun karma. You can't outsmart karma. You will get yours. And that was the only thing in that professional setting that stopped me from completely destroying lives. Just being real with y'all. Because, and it wouldn't even have been me telling anybody off. It would have been all the other things that I know how to do that could really wreak havoc on someone's professional life. Never going to do that. And the only thing is, first of all, standards for who I am. Second of all, I do believe that ultimately people who are villainous, who are doing the kinds of things that this individual was doing, probably still is doing, is karma. Eventually it catches up with them. Eventually the truth comes to the light. So, but sometimes those behaviors keep good people like you, moral, upstanding, kind people like you, they keep those people from flying because people are afraid of what people are going to say. So some of you will sometimes kind of witness what happens online and trolling and comments and those kinds of things. And you see those and you're just like, oh, subconsciously, it discourages you from flying. It discourages you from doing your own lives because somebody may put something nasty in the comments, or it discourages you from selling something online because somebody will talk about how you're scamming people, right? Nobody's oblivious to that. But the degree to which that can stop you from flying is something that you have to examine. So, number one, some people won't fly because they're scared of what other people are going to say. Well, guess what? I just gave you an example for me with somebody who's trying to assassinate my character for no reason other than they're jealous and insecure. And I mean, I can name 10 different reasons, none of which had anything to do with anything I'd done to them. So, but some people are so afraid of that happening to them. They're afraid of what people are going to say. They're going to launch these campaigns against you, whatever. Listen, all I can do is be true to who I am, be a good person, try to do the things that I think are right in the world. And not everybody's going to, not everybody's going to do right by you, but you can't let that stop you from flying. So number one, you've got to deal with your fear of what people are going to say. You got to deal with your fear of what people are going to say. And you can say, I don't care what people say. You can say that all you want. And it's not about whether you care about it. It's about, are you invested in it? I don't really care what people say or think because I got to do me. I got a limited amount of time on this earth. But the thing that I had to realize, it wasn't about whether, I don't care what you say. It's more about, I'm not invested in what you say about me, because your investment, your decision to say what you say about me or whomever, or what I do or whatever, is not about me. So why would I invest in that? Why would I invest energy and time and resource in that when it has nothing to do with me? So think about how you are allowing the comments of others, the reactions of others, the responses of others to stop you from flying. All right, that's number one. Number two is rejection. Rejection is a big reason that people will not take flight. Right? I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with CEOs, entrepreneurs, in trainings with multimillionaires where people have these great ideas but they won't do it because they're afraid that the marketplace is going to be silent, right? That the marketplace is not going to respond to their idea, right? The marketplace is, nobody's going to show up for their live stream. Do you know how many live streams I've done where, nobody's been there at first? I mean, you guys saw this right now. I went live. You don't know I'm going live. So then two people show up and I just keep talking. So some people are afraid to fly because they're afraid of the silence that they're going to receive, the rejection. Well, what if nobody shows up? Right? Well, nobody shows up what if nobody buys my product? What if nobody comes to my recital? What if nobody comes to my game? What if nobody buys my book? I mean, I could go on and go on. In fact, the very first seminar that I did in Austin, true story. This is a crazy story. But hold on, let me see who's here real quickly. Let me put these glasses on. No visuals? What do you mean, no visuals? What are you talking about, Dale? You like my hair? Okay, Lakeitha. But the true story of my first seminar was that I didn't know how to market it. So I thought because I'd paid $3,000 for flyers to go out, and then that I was Fran Harris, and then I had the Hyatt Regency. It was an elegant thing where I thought because I'd done all those kinds of things that people were just going to show up. This is my very first solo hosted business seminar. And the temperature dropped that day from like 70 to 20 degrees, literally in a matter of 4 hours. And nobody RSVP'd. I was in the room all ready to wow people and all this good stuff. And just as I was packing up, literally nobody showed up, but just as I was packing up and leaving, one person showed up. Now I could have said, oh, only one person showed up. I cannot believe, I'm devastated. I'm never going to do this again or whatever. But what I said was one person showed up. And that person ended up being a six-figure client. One person showed up. And so sometimes what we think is rejection is just an opportunity for us to shift the way that we're doing things so that we can do them better. And I learned a lot from that. I learned a whole lot. I spent a lot of money on that event without a whole lot of preparation, and had to come into a situation where I had to face a reality that I had to do things differently if I wanted to get different results. All right. So a lot of people are afraid to fly because they're afraid of rejection. They're afraid that the marketplace is not going to respond the way they want them to. The marketplace is not going to respond the way you expect it to, the way you want them to. So that's number two. Some reasons that people are unwilling to fly is because they're afraid of that rejection. And you got to acknowledge that rejection. You got to acknowledge the fact that there's some lessons, some stuff to be learned when things don't go the way that you want them to go. All right. Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever experienced where you thought, okay, I'm putting this stuff out here, and this is what I expect to happen. And when it doesn't happen, you think that the marketplace is saying that you're not supposed to do that. And it's not necessarily that. Sometimes you are in your divine assignment and you just need to learn how to do things better or differently to get the kinds of results that's going to be congruent with your assignment, right? So sometimes you will, as I did with my seminar, didn't do some things right. And that's why nobody showed up except for that one person. For whatever reason, that one person showed up. And so instead of focusing on, oh, I got one person to show up or one person to buy my book or one person to watch me live, we tend to focus on the 99 people who didn't show up. I had 100 seats and only one of them was filled. See what I mean? So it's a shift in the paradigm. It's a shift in how you perceive what is happening in your life. And you can make whatever story work for you that you want. So if I wanted to tell the story of that day in Austin where I had 100 seats, spent a lot of money on direct mail, beautiful Hyatt Regency, I could tell a different story that I did this and nobody showed up. Or I could say, I did all these things that probably weren't the best way to do these things. I probably could have marketed this differently. And guess what? A 6-figure client showed up. So those are two stories that I could have told two different ways. I could have stopped speaking forever and just figured out that wasn't for me. Or I could take a look at what happened and what showed up and I could get better and look at the positive side of that and build on that. All right. So number two, you've got to look at your fear of rejection as it relates to your inability and your unwillingness to fly. And then the third and final is that you're afraid of the perception of the fact that maybe it doesn't look like you're winning. Some people won't fly because they're only willing to show themselves in one regard. If I can't look like I'm winning, then I'm not going to do it. And what you don't realize sometimes is that the power in attracting the people who you can help the best and the most is in just being who you are, not necessarily having a persona, right? Everybody has, like, I don't have anything to do with your perception of me, but I do have everything to do with what I show you, how I show up, right? And sometimes it's going to be in a bandana. Sometimes it's going to be elegant because I'm going somewhere that I want to look elegant. Sometimes it's going to be in my t-shirt. Sometimes it's going to be, right? That's how I show up, but that's me. And I'm not overly invested in how you see me because I'm in my divine assignment. I got to show up the way that is going to be the best me, right? Notice I did not say best version. I will not say best version, but I've got to show up the way that's going to be most congruent with who I am and who I'm supposed to be in my divine assignment, right? So think about the fact that some of us we can't fly because we feel like we got to show up a certain way for what they're thinking we are, right? Well, I've got this persona. I've got to portray this thing. I've got to make sure people think that I'm this. It's hard to win in real life when you are focusing mostly on trying to keep up a persona about who you think your audience thinks that you are versus just being the most authentic person you can be so that the absolute best comes out of you. So let's recap real quickly. There are 3 reasons that people don't fly. And when I say fly, I mean really exceed any potential that you think you have, or things that you should be doing in your life, whether it's financially or relationships, being in great relationships, being great at your profession, being, shifting from what you were doing pre-COVID-19 to what you believe you should be doing post-COVID-19, right? 3 things that typically stop people from flying. Number 1 is that they are afraid what people will say. You got to watch A Place Called Home, and you get to see this villain that I mentioned earlier. Her name is Regina, and she is a nasty, nasty girl. And I have to tell you, that's probably what's happening in your life. I had to experience that, and I was like, wow, this individual is just super, super nasty for reasons that have nothing to do with me. So everything that's happening in your life is not necessarily happening to you. It could be happening for you. And the villainous behavior that I was firsthand, in the classroom, firsthand getting to learn and see that up front was really disappointing, but at the same time enlightening. Because as I said about the villainous in A Place Called Home, a lot of the nasty stuff that people think they're doing to you, that they're doing, it's not going to be in front of people. It's going to be behind your back in conversations with people. But I've always said you can't stop a freight train, and I'm a freight train. Like, you can do all the stuff you want to do behind my back, but you really cannot impede what I'm doing or who I am, because I'm in my divine assignment, and that's beyond your pay grade. And that's how you have to look at it when people are being nasty with you. They're plotting to obstruct, all kinds of justice where you're related, where you're concerned. And you've got to realize that true obstruction of nobody can really obstruct your divine assignment. They can irritate you. They can disappoint. Their behavior can be disappointing, but at the end of it, they can't really do anything about that. All right. So number 1, you got to kind of not be invested in what people are saying about you. Number 2 is you have to look at your response to rejection. All right. Look at your response to rejection. When things don't go well, right, it's an opportunity for renewal, review, and then maybe being better the next time. If people don't show up for your live streams, then maybe you need to be talking about something else. Or maybe you need to just put your live streams in front of the people who are interested in what you're talking about. All right. And then number 3 is, need my glasses. Number 3 is looking as if, you can't be afraid to look as if you're not winning. Sometimes you got to just show the raw, the real. In fact, people love the raw and the real. And if you're afraid to show the raw and the real and speak authentically to your audience, then maybe there's something for you to look at about why you're afraid to be raw and real with the people that you think you are on this earth and planet to serve. So that's what I want to say on Waterbottle Wednesday. I don't know why I can't say that. Waterbottle Wednesday. It's just about showing up the best way you can to really fulfill your divine assignment. So thanks for hanging with me today and listening to today's sermon. And I hope that you have a fantastic rest of the week. I will see you on Financial Freedom Friday. Deuces.